Dear participants, we are now going to start our third session. And to chair the session, I would like to invite Dr. Mohammad Furqan. Dr. Furqan, kindly chair this session.
Okay. So our next speaker is Dr. Muhammad Ayaz, who has who is working as assistant professor in civil engineering section, University Polytechnic, AMU Aligarh. He has completed his MTech and PhD in civil engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. He had also been awarded DARD IIT Master Sandwich Scholarship in 2008 to conduct MTech research work at University of Stuttgart, Germany. He was also awarded the Established Scientist Travel Award in 2014 by European Geosciences Union (EGU) to attend EGU General Assembly 2014 at Vienna, Austria. His research work includes the application of soft computing techniques in engineering and sciences. Okay, Dr. Mohammad Ayaz, please proceed now.
Thank you, Dr. Furqan, for introduction. So, is it visible to all of you?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, thank you. The topic of today's presentation is application of artificial neural network using MATLAB. So, in this talk, I will focus mainly on the application of artificial neural network and using MATLAB. So, in the outline of the presentation, first I will discuss why we should use the MATLAB and ANN, what is the use of ANN, how ANN works, and the different type of algorithms, ANN algorithms. So before going to the topic, first of all, we should talk about the model. What are the models? So here you can see a diagram where input and output and where the model y is equal to fx is written here. The model can be assumed of a law, a relationship, which can transfer input to the output. So input may be a scalar or a vector, and output may also be a scalar or a vector. So scalar means if it is a single valued function, then we can say that our input is an scalar. If it is a multivariate function, then we can say that our input is a vector. Vector means x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, x6, x7, xn. So n variables, we can assume that our input has n variables. So models are basically governed by the physics, or you can say the law of the nature. And it is represented by many differential equations, PDEs, ODEs, or sometimes it is coupled with PD and ODE. And to solve this system of equations or PDs and ODs, we need initial and boundary conditions, proper initial and boundary conditions. Without this, we cannot solve any differential equation. And this model can also be represented in terms of mathematical equations. So generally, model consists of two things. One is variable, which describes the nature of the output pattern. Suppose y is equal to x square. It is a model. Then x is a variable, which will define the nature of the curve. And the second thing is the parameter, which describes the set of usually similar patterns. To understand this, assume that y is equal to a into x square. So if we change the value of a, then the parabola, the shape of the function will remain same, but only the opening will change. The slope of the opening will change. So parameters generally do not change the nature of the output pattern. They generally describe the set of usually similar pattern. So first of all, I have considered here few examples of models. So first of all, I would like to take the simplest model, which is called the gravitational model. You all know about this model. This is represented by d2x divided by dt square is equal to minus g, which is also known as acceleration due to gravity. So acceleration is, what is acceleration? Acceleration is the second derivative of space with respect to time. Minus sign is here because it is in the negative x direction. So you can see in figure that at t is equal to 0, an object was here, and at t is equal to t, the object covered a distance capital S. We know a very well-known formula to represent this distance. S is equal to ut plus half at square or half gt square. You can say g is equal to acceleration due to gravity, which is equal to 9.81 meter per second square. So to find this solution, we need to solve this differential equation. This is the ordinary differential equation, which has only one variable. So you need to solve at t is equal to 0, particle is at s is equal to 0. This is the initial condition or boundary condition, you can say. So after solving this, you can plot this relationship. At x-axis, you can plot the time, and y-axis, you can plot the distance. And you will find a parabola s is equal to ut plus half gt square. So in this example, u can be treated as a parameter and t is a variable. Input is equal to t and u, and the output is s. So it is an example of model, but you can notice few things here, that in this example, physics of the model is completely known. It is described by the Newton's law of gravitation. This is the physics behind this model, so which is completely known. Nothing is hidden. Non-linear regression analysis can be performed to fit a quadratic equation for observed experimental data, input and output data. If you have input and output data in terms of t and distance, then you can fit non-linear regression model, any non-linear regression model, to predict for future prediction. And developed model can now be used for future prediction. So here the physics of the problem is completely known, so no need to apply any heuristic approach or any neural network type of thing. Another example, I have taken another example number 2, which is rainfall runoff model. This is very complex example. This model is very complex because you can see a figure here. In hydrology, this is known as the catchment, where rainfall occurs and runoff, we collect the runoff in terms of a stream flow. This is known as a catchment. So you can see that in this catchment, some rainfall occurs in terms of precipitation. The part of, so you can treat this rainfall as an input to this model. So part of this rainfall is evaporated, part of this rainfall is transpirated. So both are combinedly called the evapotranspiration. Some of the part of the rainfall is infiltrated below the ground, some in the lateral subsurface flow, some of the rainfall is intercepted by vegetations and forests, and the remaining are collected in terms of stream flow. So stream flow is the output of this model, and precipitation or rainfall, it is the input of this model. So anybody think that this model is not so simple? The physics of this model is not completely defined. If it is defined, there are many formula to calculate the infiltration, there are many formula to compute the interception, evapotranspiration, but that will vary from catchment to catchment. One formula, if you have applied infiltration formula for this catchment, then you cannot use the same result to different catchment. So this is very complex in terms of many parameters, many physical processes are happening in this model. So it is very difficult to incorporate all these parameters in this model to fit the input and output pattern. To fit the input and output pattern means for any given value of rainfall, you want to find the value of the stream flow. So if you fit the model between rainfall and runoff or stream flow, then you need to know all these parameters in very detail and very complex mathematical equations, partial differential equations will be involved in this model. But the good thing is that despite being complex, model input and output are completely new. Why? Because the model input is rainfall, which can be measured using rain gauges. You can put several rain gauges at different places to measure the rainfall. Very easily you can measure the input of this model. And the output of this model is the stream flow at the outlet, which can also be measured very easily. There is no difficulty in measuring the input and output pattern. And in between, there are many complex phenomena are happening. Don't worry about this. The ANN will take care of these things. So ANN model can be used to fit the experimental data of rainfall and stream flow in such a complex model. Developed model can now be used for stream flow prediction. So this is the basic difference between these two models. One in which the physics of the model is completely defined, and the second in which the physics of the model is not completely defined. So ANN model basically it is shown in this figure here. So ANN generally comprised of 3 layers. It may have 4 or 5 or 6 up to many layers. So mainly it comprised of 3 layers. First is input layer, the middle one is known as hidden layer, and the last one is known as the output layer. Input signals are given at the input layer and output received at the output layer. So here you can see that in this typical structure, x1, x2, x3, x4, xn, there are n input variables, x1 to xn. And we have 2 output variables, y1 and y2. You may have a single output, y. You may have 3 outputs, y1, y2, y3. Depends upon the problem you are studying. And about the hidden layer, it is the minimum requirement that at least one hidden layer should be there, because it has been mathematically proven that a neural network with at least one hidden layer, with having a sufficient number of hidden neurons, can fit any non-linear relationship up to a desired accuracy. So what do you mean? That if your model is complex, non-linearity is very high, then you can change the number of neurons in the hidden layer. Here I have shown the 5 layers, so you can change this to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to when the model is capable in fitting the input-output relationship. So for more complex problem, the number of neurons in the hidden layer should be increased. The next is ANN model why and when. So ANN model can be developed when physics of the problem is not completely understood. This is the first criteria. The physics of the problem. If you completely know the physics of the problem, there is no need to fit any ANN model, because you can solve the governing differential equations easily and you can find the exact solution of the equation, or you can find the most exact solution. Second thing is that it is very difficult to incorporate all the variables and parameters into the mathematical model. This is also a reason to use the ANN model. Third one is model physics is defined, but the governing differential equations of model are very complex. In that case also you can use the ANN model. The next is uncertainty associated with the initial and boundary conditions are not completely defined. The uncertainty means you don't have a proper initial and boundary condition, because to solve any differential equation, whether it is PD or ODE, one has to know completely the initial and boundary condition. Without this, you cannot solve these differential equations. The next one is, it is required to build an artificial intelligence system. If you want to build an artificial intelligence system or decision making system, then in that case also you can use the NN model. The advantage of using NN model, what are the advantage of using NN model? Because despite having these difficulties or uncertainties, only NN model only needs the inputs and the outputs, which is completely known.
Dr. Ayaz, sorry to interrupt you. Actually,
Okay.
Nikita Barfe has a question for you.
Hello?
Nikita Barfe has
Sorry?
a question for you.
Okay. Please ask.
Nikita Barfe, please ask your question. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So my question is how to decide the hidden layer, and in that hidden layer, how to decide the nodes in that network.
That is known as the number of neurons in the hidden layer. So in later slide, I will cover this topic. How to find the optimum number of neurons in the hidden layer, and what should be the number of layers in the hidden layer. Okay.
Sir. Okay, sir.
So NN models are generally used to fit two types of problems. First is known as the fitting problem, in which you have the input and output data of any model or any system, or so you can fit this input output pattern to predict for data in between, which is not used for fitting. The second one is used for the classification problem. The NNs can also be used as a classifier. Suppose you have water samples, and water samples you want to classify in class A, class B, class C, class D, class E, based on some properties like turbidity or some carbonate content or hardness. These are the parameters, and based you have set few ranges of these parameters, and you want to find that which class this sample is of which class. So in classification problem also ANN models are used. So this is the schematic representation of feed-forward neural network. This is inspired by the central nervous system of the brain. But this model is completely a mathematical model. There is no direct connection between the biological neuron system and that's why it is called the artificial neurons, artificial neural network or artificial system. So there is no direct connection between the biological nervous system and the artificial. But it is said that it is inspired by, because it can also make decisions. So that's why it is called that it is inspired by the central nervous system of the brain. Neural network with one hidden layer having finite number of hidden neurons can fit any multivariate non-linear function. That's why it is also called mathematical universal approximator. Because of this property, neural networks are also called universal approximator. This is mathematically proven. This statement is mathematically proven that a neural network with one hidden layer, at least one hidden layer, having a finite number of hidden neurons, can fit any multivariate non-linear function. So now we will discuss about the input and output data set. What are the input data set and what are the output data set? So I have taken here a model y is equal to fx, where y may be a vector or a scalar, f may be a vector, x may be a vector or a scalar. If it is a vector, then it will called as multivariate function, and y multi-output function. So we have taken here x as n-dimensional input variables, x1, x2, x3 up to x is the output, taken two outputs, y1 and y2. So in first figure you can see the set of input data. So in first column, input variables x1, x2, x3, x4 up to xn is shown. And 1, 2, 3, these are the experiment numbers. So first experiment numbers, you have these values for input parameters. For x1 3.1, for x2 2.5, for x3 4.6, and so on. For xn 9.1. These are the inputs for first experimental data, first experimental setup, or you can say. And for these inputs, you have two outputs, y1 and y2. These outputs are shown below. Y1 is 4.1 and y2 is equal to 3.5. So you may have several set of experimental data. First set data, second set, third set, fourth set, fifth set. You may have 50 sets, 100 sets, 200 sets, 1000 sets. So this is input and output data sets. So now we will discuss about the artificial neurons. What is the artificial neuron? Artificial neuron is the basic processing unit of artificial neural network. This is the basic processing unit which receives informations at the input layer. It generally consists of three elements: nodes, weights, and activation function. So you can see here that a node, sigma, where sigma is written, which is a node, which receives inputs x1, x2, x3 up to xn, and these inputs are multiplied by the weights. For each connections, these inputs are multiplied by their weights. So we can see that sigma is equal to wixi, sigma wixi. Means w1 x1 plus w2 x2 plus w3 x3 plus w4 x4 and so on, plus wn x. And at the same time, we need to add a bias node here. So we have added here a bias node whose value is 1, functional value is 1, input value is 1, and the bias weight is b. So 1 into b is equal to b. That's why here it is written that y is equal to sum wxi plus b, and where w is equal to weight vector or weight matrix, you can say. For a single neuron, it will be in the form of vector, and for a complete neural network, it will represent the matrix, weight matrix. X is equal to input vectors, x1, x2, x3, xn, and f is equal to activation function. So this summation, what you get at this node, should pass through the activation function small f. After passing that, the output is received. We can calculate the output from the node. Output y is represented as y is equal to f sigma wixi plus b.
Sir,
So what is the act? Okay.
so my
Yes.
question is, what is the role of bias here, bias node, and why it is needed? And
Okay.
on which basis?
Just wait for few slides that will come.
Okay.
Just wait for few slides that will. So first of all, we will talk about the activation function. So what is the activation function? So you have inputs x1, x2, x3, xn. So there can be any values between. So if you want to restrict your output within a band, suppose if you want to restrict that all the outputs of the neuron should be between 0 and 1. So you need to pass through that output to the activation function. So activation function provides non-linearity to the hidden units of the neural network, and also makes the multi-layer neural network so powerful that it can fit any non-linear function. Activation function should be continuous and differentiable, as the backpropagation algorithm are based on gradient-based search technique. While choosing the activation function, we need to take care that our activation function is differentiable, because when we derive the backpropagation algorithm, in this step, we need to differentiate the activation function also. So it is desired that the activation function should be bounded. So First one is the log sigmoid activation function, or which is also known as the transfer function. So log sigmoid gives the output between 0 and 1. For any input between minus infinity to infinity, the output will be between 0 and 1. If you want output between minus 1 to 1, then you can use tan sigmoid transfer function, which is alpha n is equal to e to the power n minus e to the minus n divided by e to the power n plus e to the minus. And this last one is linear transformation function, which transforms the input and output in linear space, which is y is equal to x or n is equal to n. You can simply say y is equal to x or n is equal to n. So activation function generally bonds the output between your desired values. Basically, people use sigmoid activation function. These are the commonly used activation functions. Sigmoid activation function are used at the hidden layer, log and tan sigmoid, for introduce non-linearity. If your relationships, if your inputs are not so much non-linear data, then it will provide non-linearity to the model. Linear activation function are generally used at the output layer. So now we will come to the Bayes node. Why Bayes node is used? Bayes node means whose value is 1 and weight can be anything. Bayes nodes are added to increase the flexibility of what equation y is equal to ax plus b. So if in y is equal to ax plus b, if you make b is equal to 0, then what will happen? You are forcing the relationship to pass through the origin, always pass through the origin. It is not mandatory that all the relationships should pass through the origin. So to provide the flexibility or to provide the intercept form, to provide the intercept on y-axis, we generally add the Bayes node. It allows a classifier to shift the decision boundary left or right to fit the prediction with data in a better way. The Bayes node of neural network is always on. Its value is 1, irrespective of the data is given. Weight will be anything. Weight will be found after the training, but the value is always 1. Now we will discuss about the training of the artificial neural network. What is the training of the artificial? So training means to fix or to adjust the associated weights between the connectors. You know that suppose if I see here a neural network here, you can see that each neuron of a particular layer is connected to all the layer of the adjacent layer, all the neurons of the adjacent layer. Each layer of a particular, each neuron of a particular layer is connected to all the neurons of the adjacent or the next layer.
Sorry to interrupt. There is one question from the participants.
Okay.
This is a question from Kumari Deepika. What is PDEs and ODEs?
PDEs are the partial differential equations and ODEs are the ordinary differential equations. Ordinary differential equation means your phenomena or your physical phenomena depends only on one variable. Suppose y is equal to, just acceleration is equal to a is equal to d2x divided by dt square. So x is a function of t only. So in that case, you can represent your physics into the form of mathematical model with the help of one independent variables only, that is time. If the independent variable is more than one, then those system will be represented by the partial differential equations. That's Laplace equations. These are the PDEs, or the Navier-Stokes equation. Famous Navier-Stokes equation is example of coupled PDE. Continuity equation is example of PDE. These are the PDEs. So in PDE, the independent variable is more than one. In ODE, the independent variable is single. Is it clear? PDs and ODs are the mathematical representation of physical processes. We generally use, we see any law of nature, something is happening in the nature, and mathematician have described this phenomena in terms of the differential equations, which is basically of two types, PDs and ODs.
Yes, sir, it's clear. Thank you.
So here you can see that each neuron of a particular layer is connected to all the neurons of the adjacent layer or the next layer. So each such connections are associated with a weight, which is known as Wij, ith neuron to the jth. So in the training, we need to find the weights between these connections, for which the input and output patterns are for which the output predicted by NN model is matches with the experimental output data. So training of artificial neural network, basically it is the adjustment of associated weights between the connections in such a way that the error calculated at the output layer is minimum. So error calculated, what is error calculated? You pass the input at the input layer and pass this information through the network and up to the output layer and calculate the output from the neural network. If this output is matching with the experimental output, then we can say that our model is working fine. There is no need of any improvement or adjusting the weights. Initially, what we do? Initially, we assume the weight values, random weight values, or we fix any weight values, and we calculate the output based on these weight values and compare that output with the experimental output. If these two outputs are matching, it means that our assumption of weight between the connections are good. So our model is already trained, but this is not the real case. We need to adjust these weights associated between the connections, and that is called the training of the neural network, so that the error calculated at the output layer is the minimum. The training comprises of two steps. The first one is known as feed forward step and the back propagation step. So what is feed forward step? It is feeding in the forward direction. So input is passed through the network and output is calculated. The total sum of incoming input at jth neuron is given by Wij plus b, I is equal to 1 to n. This is net j. Similarly, we are doing the same thing. We are multiplying weight to the input values, and b is for Pice weight, where here the value is 1. The input received of jth neuron is then passed through the activation function. This net j is passed through the activation function f, and the output is known as Yj. Yj is equal to f of net j. What you have calculated here, this will be passed through the f and 1 upon 1 plus ext exponential of the net j. In similar way, final network output is calculated at the output layer.
Sir,
So in the back propagation, yes.
the question is how the activation function we will decide. That means which
Activation function will be decided on many things. Suppose you don't want any negative value, then you will not prefer the tan sigmoid activation function which is given value between -1 to 1. If your values are only positive values, then between 0 and 1, then you can choose sigmoid activation function. Activation function mainly decided on the basis of the problem you are studying.
There is one question from one of the participants. Dr. Apeksha, you can ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, can we use a simple
Good
epidemic
afternoon.
model ANN? We have
Sorry,
some-
you are not audible.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, good afternoon. Can we use a simple epidemic model like SIR in ANN? Do you have some idea about epidemic models?
Epidemic model is different thing. I don't have any idea about the epidemic model, but ANN
It's the system of
epidemiologist can use ANN.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
ANN is basically a data-driven model. So any data can be used to derive any relationship. It is nothing to do with the civil engineering, mechanical engineering, or sciences. Any input and output data, which is very complex in nature, can be used to find the relationship between these data sets. That's why it is also called the data-driven model. So training of the artificial neural network in the back propagation step, what we calculate the sum of the square error, SSE, some may calculate the MSE, mean square error, some may calculate the RMSE, root mean square error, whatever is suitable, whatever, it depends on the algorithm, back propagation algorithm you are using. If you are using Levenberg-Marquardt algorithm, then better to choose the quadratic functions like mean squared error or SSE squared error. So it depends upon the algorithm which you are choosing for minimization of the function. So this is the output calculated at the sum of the square error calculated at the output layer, where E square PM is the network output. EPM is the network output calculated for pth pattern, and M is the index of the output. Suppose M is equal to 1 means for first output, M is equal to 2 means for second output. So it is the difference between the network error and the target. Target means the experimental value that you already have. So this is the difference. The difference is known as the error, and you have squared the difference so that to avoid the cancellation, suppose some error is positive, some error is negative, it may cancel out. So to avoid the cancellation among themselves, you have squared this error and summed. So this is known as sum square error. If you take the mean square error. The SSE is solely a function of weight and biases. So this is very important to understand that SSE, which is the sum of the square error, or you can say the objective function, which you have to minimize. So your objective function SSE is a function of weights. Weights means weights between the connections and the bias weight. Because everything you have calculated, suppose you have randomized weight with some values, or you put that W1, W2, W3, W4, Wn, these are the weights. So you have inputs and you calculated the output in terms of weights. So SSE will be a function of weights and biases. So our main target is to minimize this objective function or this SSE to find those set of weights for which the SSE is minimum. Better to achieve the zero value. It is the best to achieve the zero value. SSE should be zero. When the SSE will be zero, when the network output and the target output are exactly same, which is not possible practically, but we can say that SSE will be zero only when the network output and target outputs are exactly same or identical. So our target is to achieve not the exact zero, but near to zero, or to minimize. So in the training, we generally minimize this objective function to find the set of values of W. W is a matrix here. Don't confuse with W. W is a matrix of weights, all the weights associated between the connections. So it is a matrix and the bias weights. So our target is to find the values of weights, those weights and biases for which the SSE is minimum. For this, we generally use two types of algorithms. First is known as the gradient descent algorithm or Levenberg-Marquardt algorithm. There are many algorithms available, but generally people use the Levenberg-Marquardt algorithm is the fastest algorithm and the robust algorithm, stable algorithm. So we will discuss 2 or 3 algorithms here in this talk. So few mathematical backgrounds are required to understand these algorithms. The first one is linear algebra with multi-dimensional vector space. In multi-dimensional vector space, multivariate calculus, which is vector calculus and partial differential equation, and some sort of computer program, MATLAB, C, etc. So the first algorithm we'll discuss about is the gradient descent algorithm. This is also known as the steepest descent algorithm. Gradient descent or steepest descent. This is the first order optimization technique, first order iterative optimization technique. The gradient of any scalar field. A scalar field means if your function f is a function of x1, x2, x3, x4, xn, multivariate function. So gradient of this function, which is defined as the grade of f, which is defined as del of del x of f to I, or unit vectors in terms of agar n hai, then you may have n unit vectors e1, e2. It which is written here, del fx is equal to del fx divided by del x ei e1 is the unit vector in x1 direction, del partial derivative with respect to x2 to e2, and so on, partial derivative of f with respect to xn or en. En is the unit vector in nth direction. So the property of this grade del fs, this gradient is that it directs, it is a vector. Basically, it is a vector e1, e2, e3. It is a vector quantity. The direction of this vector points towards the direction of the greatest rate of increase of the function, where it will always point in that direction in which the function has greatest rate of increase. But we need to decrease, we need to minimize the function, so better to choose the negative of the gradient. That's why we choose the negative of the gradient, based on the fact that fx decreases fastest at a point x in the direction of the negative gradient of fx at x, that is negative of gradient of fx. So we choose the search direction in the negative of the gradient, because in positive direction the gradient points the direction in which the function's increase rate is maximum. So here an example has been taken in which this is a single variable function. E is a function of w. So here the gradient will be simply the tangent. So we have taken the negative of the tangent of direction, which will lead to the minima. If we start from here, w old is the starting point, and we point towards the negative of the gradient. W new is equal to w old minus eta into del E by del W. dE by dW, we can also write dE by dW, because this is a single variable function. And eta is the step size which define the, you need to go in this direction up to how long. So it is decided by the eta. So if you have multivariate function, then you can see the ripple.
Sir, I have one question.
Okay.
Eta is can we decide the value of eta? That means when the iterations is going on, that is a
Eta actually, the eta should be updated at after every step. If you fix eta constant, then it will create problem that I will discuss later. Why keeping constant eta creates problem. I will discuss later on.
Okay.
The next is gradient descent algorithm, the same. If you have multivariate functions, multivariate, here I have taken two-dimensional function where input is x1 and x2 and output is y or f. F is function of x1 and x2. So in that case, you can see a ball-like shape or ball. You have seen the ball. So if you plot the contours, what are the contours? Where the functional value is constant. So these contours represents where the functional value f is constant. F is equal to constant. And this is the minima, suppose. Last point, the minima of a ball. Suppose you have a ball, then the bottom will be the minimum. So in that case, you can see that if you have started from x naught and you move to x1, x2, x3, x4, xn. So it will represent the direction of x naught, x1 will be perpendicular to the contour line. Always it will perpendicular to the contour lines. And finally, it will converge to the minimum. Because this is the gradient direction where the function decreases maximum. Maximum decrease will be the perpendicular to the contour direction. So general update rule is here xn plus 1 is equal to xn minus eta grade or gradient of function fxn. Eta is equal to step size need to be updated after each step. Why it need to be updated after each step? Because if you are in the, suppose you are here, suppose this function. There are some flat portions. If you got stuck in this flat portion, then it will be very difficult to move because the gradient is almost zero or very minimum gradient. So if you don't take higher value of eta, then you will get stuck in these regions. So I will discuss this after a few slides. So eta is the step size that need to be updated after each step. So if you want to understand the gradient descent, what is the gradient descent? Here is a video link which is taken from the Wikipedia. You can visualize the steepest descent phenomena, gradient descent or steepest descent. Can you see this?
Yes, it's visible.
Here are the contour lines, blue and green and red. Blue is the minimum and red is the maximum. So you can see that the points are moving towards the blue one and emerging from the red one, radiates outside. So this is the direction of the gradient descent direction. This is the search direction. So what is the problem with gradient descent algorithm? Xn plus 1 is equal to xn minus eta grade of f. For a constant eta, this method does not take large steps when the function fx is in flat area. Optimizer may get stuck. Why? Because in the flat areas, the term So we were discussing the problems with gradient descent algorithm. These I have already discussed that in flat areas, this algorithm may got stuck. Now we will come to the Newton's method, which is second order accurate or second order. This method uses also the curvature information along with the gradient. The gradient descent method only uses the gradient of the function, but this Newton's method uses the gradient as well as the curvature information of the function. The second derivative of any scalar field gives the curvature. So it is very easy to find the curvature using the second derivative. The difference you can see here in this figure, the same contour lines are here. You can see in the green one, the gradient descent, which follows a path which is shown in the green line, which is always perpendicular to the path is always perpendicular to the contour lines because of the gradient direction. But in the red line, the convergence of a Newton's method has been shown, in which you can say that Newton's method, the red one, has taken more direct route following the curvature of the function. If you follow the curvature, you can directly find the minimum. Actually, Newton's method assumes that the fits between two values, it fits a parabola or quadratic function. It fits a quadratic function. Assumes that the function is of quadratic nature. It fits a parabola between these two contours and find the such direction. That's why it is very fast. This method is very fast. Newton method is very fast. In that case, if you have a quadratic function, then in one step it will converge. Even in a single step it will converge because it assumes that the function is quadratic and actually the function is also quadratic, then it will find the minima in a single step. It follows the curvature. So this update rule, you can see the update rule of Newton's method is Wk plus 1 is equal to Wk minus Hk inverse Gk, where Hk inverse is the Hessian matrix. Hessian matrix represents the curvature, which is the second order partial second order derivative of the function E. You can notice that the Hessian matrix is a symmetric matrix. Symmetric about the diagonal. You can see that this matrix is a symmetric matrix and G is the gradient vector. So Newton's method is faster than the steepest descent method. One more method has been developed by Gauss-Newton method. In this method, you need not to calculate the Hessian matrix. In this method, the Hessian matrix is approximated by the Jacobian matrix. So unlike Newton's method, the Gauss-Newton algorithm can only minimize the sum of squared function values, least square problems, which is used to solve least square problem. It has advantages that the second derivative Hessian matrix are not required. Why? Because in Newton's method, Wk plus 1 is equal to Wk minus Hk inverse. And in Gauss-Newton method, you can see that H is replaced by Jk transpose J, where J is the Jacobian matrix. H is equal to J transpose J. And gradient is also approximated by J into E. So this is the Jacobian matrix. You can see here the Jacobian matrix in terms of errors. P is the pattern, index of pattern, and M is the index of output. So this method, Gauss-Newton method, is very good in local convergence. If you are starting, you have taken the starting point very near to minima, then it will converge very fast. But if it is very far away, your starting point is very far away from the minima, then it is not that much good. And the gradient descent is very good in global convergence. So Levenberg and Marquardt, they they thought that why not we mix these two algorithms. So they mixed these two algorithms, combined these two algorithms to find a robust algorithm which is stable also. So Levenberg-Marquardt algorithm interpolates between Gauss-Newton algorithm and gradient descent in these two. This is a hybrid method. This is a combination of Gauss-Newton and gradient descent algorithm. So update rule of Gauss-Newton is written here. Wk plus 1 is equal to Wk minus Jk transpose Jk, the inverse of this matrix, to J and Ek. The LM algorithm, we have introduced a scalar mu here also. So Wk minus Jk transpose Jk plus mu into I. I is the identity matrix of the same size. Identity matrix inverse of this Jk and Ek, where mu is a scalar. If we take smaller values of mu, the LM algorithm behaves like a Gauss-Newton algorithm. You can see easily here. If you take mu is equal to 0, then LM algorithm will exactly become the Gauss-Newton algorithm. If you take larger value of mu, the LM algorithm will behaves like gradient descent algorithm. You are giving more weightage, more advantages to the gradient and less advantages to the Hessian or the curvature. So this property has been used to develop the Levenberg-Marquardt algorithm. Gradient descent is very good in global convergence, but have poor local convergence near minima. And the Gauss-Newton is very good in local convergence, but near minima have very poor global convergence. So if you want to visualize the Levenberg-Marquardt algorithm, you can see here. This is the contour line. This is the gradient line, which is perpendicular to the contour line. Gradient descent direction. This is the gradient descent direction. This should be the direction of search when we are using gradient descent algorithm. And this should be the direction of search Newton direction if you are using Newton's method, which is the direction of the curvature. This is the direction of the gradient. So Levenberg-Marquardt interpolates in between, depending upon the value of mu. This is the direction of for mu value for certain mu value. This is the in between. This is the direction of the search. So if we increase the value of mu, it will shift towards the gradient descent. It means that we are giving more advantages, more weight to the gradient direction. If we are decreasing the value of mu, then it will shift to the Newton algorithm. It means that we are giving more weightage to the curvatures. So in terms of convergence speed, if you see, the gradient descent has the least convergence speed, and the Newton's method has the highest convergence speed, and LM algorithm is in between. In terms of stability, the order is just reverse. So what we do in Levenberg-Marquardt algorithm? So Levenberg-Marquardt algorithm generally start with larger value of mu, because we don't know the exact location of the minima. So we can start, our initial guess should be anywhere, as we don't know the location of the minima. So we can start from anywhere, maybe far from the minima. That's why we generally start with larger value of mu to ensure global convergence, so that it will come towards the minima. So slowly, but definitely it will come towards the minima. And after each successive steps, quickly the LM algorithm shift towards the Gauss-Newton method for faster convergence. Because after few steps, you are approaching towards the minima, and at that time you need to approach faster also. So better to change the mu value, shift the mu value, or decrease the mu value. If you are decreasing the mu value, it means that you are giving more priority to the curvature. Initially, you are giving more priority to the gradient. Quickly, LM algorithm shift towards the Gauss-Newton method for faster convergence. Mu is therefore decreased after each successive step. LM algorithm is considered as robust and fastest method for training ANN model. LM algorithm is very far from global mean. LM algorithm are limited to MSc and SSc type objective function. Why? Because you are approximating Hessian with Jacobians. This is the summary of all the propagation algorithm, Newton algorithm, Gauss-Newton algorithm, Leeuwenberg-Marquardt algorithm, and you can see the update rules here. And in terms of convergence, you can see the fast convergence Newton algorithm and Gauss-Newton fast, Leeuwenberg-Marquardt algorithm. These are fast, but Gauss-Newton is unstable algorithm. And in terms of computation complexity, you can see that the Leeuwenberg-Marquardt algorithm, you need to compute only Jacobian, but in Newton algorithm, you need to compute gradient as well as Hessian, the second partial derivative terms. Now, this is all about the Leeuwenberg-Marquardt algorithm, which is the robust and fastest algorithm, which generally people use. And now I have taken an example how to introduce these concepts into real world problem. So I have taken an illustrative example here. This is the problem definition. Flow over a weir, flow over oblique weir. Civil engineering students might know about this. What is weir? You can see two diagrams or two pictures here. One is the front elevation, sectional elevation, and B is the plan of the same thing. Side view and plan. So here a channel is given and water is flowing over the weir. This is known as the weir, oblique weir, which is inclined at an angle of theta, and water is flowing. The discharge Q is flowing over this weir. B is the width of the channel. H is equal to head over the weir, which W is the width of the weir. Theta is the weir angle, inclination angle, and Q is the discharge. First of all, for any problem, applying any problem, we need to find the input and output variables. So here the input variables W is the weir height, which can be changed. Theta is the angle of inclination, which can also be changed. H is the height above the weir, which is, and the output is the Q, discharge. So we want to find Q in terms of Q is the function of W, theta, and H. So input is equal to W, theta, and H, and output is equal to Q. We have experimental data for these so that we can train ANN model. Why we are training ANN model for this? There are many empirical equations and are available to find the discharge over a weir, but that equation involves a term CD, which is called the discharge coefficient. A discharge coefficient depends on many things, which is complex, which is not so easy to find that this is the one cannot say that this is the value of the CD. CD will depend on many things. That's why we have used ANN model to train this relationship. So we have experimental data here. Total number of 841 experimental data sets have been used of inputs and outputs. The yellow one is shown the inputs, weir angle, theta, W, weir height, H is equal to H naught minus H2, H naught minus W. The yellow one is the inputs, and the blue one is the output, corresponding output. So for we have 841 data sets for different values of weir angle, weir height, and H, and their corresponding discharges also. So we have a simple ANN model here to illustrate the concepts of ANN model.
So my
I have
question,
trained a simple
sir,
ANN player. Yes.
sir. So my question is, out of these 841
Yeah.
different data samples, can we
Ji, ji.
divide it into training and testing data sets?
Out of 841 data sets, few data sets are used for training, few data sets for validation, few are in training, testing, and validation. We will discuss this also.
Okay.
In the next few slides, I will come to that. So first of all, we need to make the model. Why we are taking this W, H, and theta, and Q is the discharge. So this is a simple model in which the 3 inputs and 1 output. Green one is the hidden layer, and the number of hidden layer is not known. So NN architecture is the number of neurons in the input layer dash number of neuron in the hidden layer dash number of neuron in the output layer. So input NN architecture is not known. 3 question mark and 1, because you know the input and output only, you don't know the number of neurons in the hidden layer. That's why this is shown by question mark. So number of neuron in the input layer is equal to 3, number of neurons in the hidden layer to be fixed. We don't know, as of now we don't know, but we need to find this. Number of neurons in the output layer is equal to 1. So what are the steps? The first step is to collect and prepare the data. First of all, you need to collect and prepare data. Second is to create the network, configure the network, initialize the weights and biases. Weights and bias value, you need to initialize the weights and biases. Train the network, validate the network, post-processing analysis, use the network for prediction, future prediction. So first of all, the prepare the data. So in the preparation, we first generally normalize the data between some values. Why we normalize the data? There are many reasons. First of all, we need to know the formula which we use to normalize. Xn is equal to a plus b minus a, x minus x minimum divided by x max minus x min, where xn is equal to normalized value, a is equal to lower limit of normalized value, which I have taken 0.1. B is equal to upper limit of the normalized value, which I have taken 0.9. It means all the data will be normalized between 0.1 and 0.9. X is equal to value of the data to be normalized. X minimum value of the data set, or X maximum is the maximum value of the data set. Maximum value in the data set. So using this formula, we first of all we normalize all the input parameters and the output parameters, or input data and output data between 0 and 0.9. Why we normalize? Because there are 3 inputs. The ranges of each inputs are not same. Why? Because if you see here, theta is in radian, h is in meter, w is in meter. The ranges of all 3 variables are not comparable. Suppose one is in the order of 10 to the power minus 6, and one is order of 10 to the power plus 6, plus 5, or 100, 200. So in order to make in the same range, we generally normalize the data. And after the training, we denormalize the data to get the actual value. After that, we divide the data into 3 sets. This is your answer to the question why we divide the data. To divide the data into 3 subsets: training, validation, and testing. For this division, we generally use 2 functions. First one is divide rand, means divide the data randomly. This is the default setting of the MATLAB. So we use divide rand. Better to use divide rand. Let MATLAB divide the data randomly. But if you want to divide as per your convenience, as per your choice, then you can use divide block. Divide the data into continuous blocks. You can use the data. These 2 formulas you can use to divide the data. Better to use divide rand, randomly divide the data in training sets, testing sets, and validation. This is the M file written for normalizing. Now, creating GUI, graphical user interface network, using MATLAB. So in MATLAB, the GUI toolbox of
Can we use
yes,
NN tool also?
NN tool, you can use NN tool, NF tool, anything you can use. The difference between NN tool and NF tool is that NF tool has only one hidden layer. In NN tool, you can go up to many hidden layers. Okay. NF tool, neural network fitting tool, has one hidden layer. If an NN tool has many, you can set many hidden layers. I have used NF tool here. Once you type NF tool on the command window, you will get this GUI, graphical user interface. Welcome to the neural fitting app. You can see here the diagram, input, hidden, output, and output layer and output of this.
Sir,
So
as you said earlier, normalization is important, right? So, why we are denormalized
normalization is
again?
important. In order to denormalize, to find the actual values, you need to denormalize. If your some variable, you want to know the actual value of the variable, not the normalized value of the variable, actual value of the variable, then you need to denormalize. Otherwise, you will get the answer in between 0.1 and 0.9, which is not the real values. Okay.
Then,
Denormalization is done to find the actual values. Normalized values are the changed values, hypothetical values, following a formula, which are not the actual values. You have restricted all the values between 0.1 and 0.9. Now you want to find the actual output value. Then you need to denormalize the answer to get the actual value. Now, so if you click the next here, you will see this screen. So before that, you process data and you save data in the command in the so you can select norm input and norm target. You can prepare norm input or norm target. Norm input is the normalized input data. Norm target is the normalized target value. So before going to this, you need to do this exercise. After that, you will be asked to select the training, testing, and validation percentage. So randomly divide up the 841 samples. I have taken here 70% data for training, 15% for validation, and 15% for testing. This is a general standard format. People use 70, 70, 15, 15. If you want, you can use 80, 10, 10. This is also acceptable. So most of the data are used for training. Some of the data are used for validation and testing. So if you click next here, you will see this. In this, you will be asked to set the number of hidden neurons in the hidden layer. So number of hidden layers neurons, I have taken 10 here. You can set any values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, anything you can choose. So I have taken 10 here. So so my architecture is 3, 10, and 1. You can see the diagram below, block diagram. 3 is the input neurons, 10 is the hidden neuron, 1 is the output neuron. And you can choose here the next. And in this step, you need to choose the training algorithm. Gradient descent, Levenberg, Marquardt, many algorithms are there here. 5 to 6 algorithms are. If you drop down this, you will find 5 to 6 algorithms. So I have chosen here Levenberg Marquardt as because this is the robust algorithm, widely used algorithm, and the fastest algorithm. So that's why I have taken this algorithm. And click the button train. Once you click the button train, the training will start. And you can see here the training, validation, testing, sample, MSc, and R. This is blank here. Samples have been divided into 3 sets, 589, 126, 126, but MSc and R is not filled up. After the training, you will find this. The MSc is 5.3 into 10 to the minus 5 training for training, and R is equal to 0.99998. For validation, MSc is 5.38 into 10 to the minus 5, R is equal to 0.998, and similar in for testing. So if you find that your results are not good, or your R values or MSc values are not good, you can retrain these data. Using this button, you can retrain. You can retrain.
Sir, how we can analyze MSc and R values?
MSc and R values, if it is normalized, MSc and R values can also be used as stopping criteria. It depends upon the sensitivity of the model or problem of the model, how small value of MSc you want. R value, it is clear. If it is closer to 1, it is best.
But sir, is it any ideal criteria for MSc values?
No, it is not any ideal criteria. Depends upon the sensitivity of the problem. Depends upon the suppose you have data with some errors. Always data have some errors. So it is not possible to fit those erroneous data up to that much of MSc value, up to that minimum value of the MSc. So the training also depends upon the accuracy of the data and the quality of the data. If you use data generated by the equation, you can see that the MSc will be 0 or near to 0, 10 to the minus 10, 10 to the minus 20. Why? Because data is of high quality. So for all data, you need to set your priority as per your convenience.
And the second one is in the first we have 70% training and 15% validation and testing. So they're automatically done. But I have suppose training is a separate data set and validation and testing has a separate data set. Then how I will put into that? Actually, it is an automatic way to train automatically randomly. They are dividing it and then train the model. But I have that different data sets already. Then how I can do this?
Different data set means?
It means I have already that part-wise data set. That means training different, validation different, and by my choice or already I have that. So how I
so
can
you need to use yes this function. You need to, if you want to do this type of training, testing, and validation, so you need at the division of data, you need to use this block division. This is the default option. You need to change the function.
Okay.
The M file is generated. Actually, the M file is generated. In the M file, .m file, you can change these functions.
Okay, sir.
If you don't want to change, if you just want to run the model, then all the default setting will be used. If you want, no, I want to run this model as per my choice, then you need to generate M file, script file. And in the script file, you can change these things. And if you want just to run the model, then definitely the all default settings will be used until and unless you change it.
Okay, sir. Clear.
There is one question from one of the participants. I am from Dr. Kumari Deepika. So go ahead, you can ask your question.
Yes.
Kumari Deepika, you can ask your question. Yes, you can ask your question. I think she is unable to hear. Okay, we can go on.
Okay. Okay. So we were here creating network using GUI. So you can see the MSC and R values, and you, if you want, it is if it is necessary to retrain the data. If you find that the R value for training is different and there is a lot of difference in R values between training, validation, and testing, or MSC are not comparable to each other, then in that cases you can retrain the data. This might be because of overtraining. Some maybe because of overtraining, the training parameters are very good, but the validation and testing fails. So here are the few parameters: performance, training stage, error histogram, regression, and fit. These plots will be shown by clicking these buttons. If you click the next, you will find this diagram. Here you can generate the script file, M file. So here are two options to generate the M file. One is the simple script, and another is the advanced script. If you click this advanced script, you will find that your ANN is written in terms of the M file, and where you can change the default settings. If you save results, the results will be saved. Net, save the network in terms of net, info, output, error, this will be saved to the workspace. And you can see the results. This is the regression plot. If you plot the regression, you will see this plot. So QA is the actual discharge and QP is the predicted. Y-axis the predicted discharge. You can see R value is very close to 1, 0.999. In training, testing, validation, and the fourth one is all together. So the circle shows the data, blue line fit, and A is equal to P is equal to A is equal to P means that the actual is equal to predicted, which is obviously a line which is at an angle of 45 degree. Slope is equal to 1. So you can see the parameters after the training. For training, MSC is 6.28, 9, 10 to the minus 7. For validation and testing, you will get different values, MSC and R. So this is the plot of MSC with epochs. Epochs means iterations. Iterations is also called as epochs. So after 162 epochs, the training, after 160 epochs, the training stops. And you can see the training error MSC during training. For training data set, MSC is decreasing. Validation and testing, the MSC is decreasing with number of epochs. You can plot different diagrams to show the results. Here, a error histogram has been shown. What is the error histogram? Error histogram with 20 bins. 20 bins means 20 blocks, 20 divisions. The blue, red, and green showing the contribution of training, validation, and testing data set, and the line is zero error, is where the error is zero. You can see that in this, it has a bell shape. You can see that as the error band is increasing, zero error band means where the line is zero error line. As the error increasing, band increasing, error band increasing, the number of instances of falling data in these bins also decreases. So most of the data have lesser error ranges. You can conclude that from this figure that most of the data have lesser error ranges. As the error ranges increases, the number of instances of falling data in those error ranges are decreasing, which is a good thing. So MSE and R actually gives the average values in order to find the point-wise value, or in order to find the whole picture of the predicted values or predicted discharge. We need to use another plot which is known as stem plot. Stem plot, we have sold all 841 data points here, and the error, prediction error in all 841 data points. So this plot is known as stem plot. You can see here that the maximum and minimum error, maximum error is between plus minus 4 into 10 to the power minus 3. And most of the data are limited within the error range of 1 into 10 to the minus 3. So you can see that for overall picture of your prediction, you can use this plot. Now, the main thing is that how to fix the number of neurons in the hidden layer, which is I have taken 10 hidden layer, but that is not the exact one. So to find the optimum number of neurons in the hidden layer, we generally use trial and error method, in which we plot the MSE corresponding to the number of neurons in the hidden layer. In x-axis, you can see the number of neurons in the hidden layer, and y-axis represents the mean square error. So for number of hidden layers, we start with 5. 5, you can see that it 3.5 into 10 minus 6. For 10, for 15, for 20, 25 to 30, 35. Plot all these and find the number of neuron for which the MSE is minimum. Here for 20 number of neuron hidden layer 20, the MSE is minimum. I can find the minimum for number of 20 hidden neurons. So this is the one of the way which generally people use to fix the number of neurons in the hidden, which is easier and based on the trial and error method. These are the training parameters, and these are the references. Neural Network Toolbox, User Guide, R 2012A, optimization, because we have talked about the optimization methods, optimization problems, Newton algorithm, Gauss-Newton, steepest descent, and Leavenworth-Marquardt. These are the optimization problems. So optimization of chemical processes, McGraw-Hill by Edgar and Himmelblau. Few mathematical terms, applied mathematical methods by Bhaskar Das Gupta, and the Leavenworth-Marquardt algorithm, Hagen and Menhaj, training feed-forward neural network with Marquardt algorithm. So that's about this presentation. Now the session is open for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Ayaz. Now I will ask the participants if they have any question, please write it in the chat box or raise your hands so that I can unmute you.
Sir, can you again explain why the bias, what is the role of bias? Actually, I didn't get this. Why the bias is important, and what is the role of that? Please, can you again explain?
Don't worry. Okay. Suppose you have a data. Few data, you have X data and you have Y data. And you are told that this data represents a linear equation, linear relationship. X and Y has a linear relationship, and you want to fit this relationship. So you generally use the regression model. y is equal to mx to fit this data? You will use y is equal to mx plus c, not mx. If you are told to use y is equal to mx, then it is because the relationship is linear, but it may have some intercept. So by adding c, you are providing flexibility to move up and down, so that in the regression analysis, what we do in the regression analysis, we find the values, y values, based on the coefficients a and c, and the actual values, we find the difference between these two, which is known as error, and minimize these two values by partial differentiating. So if you are choosing a model y is equal to mx, then will it be a general model to fit a linear relationship? Tell me yes or no.
No, sir.
No. Why? Because c term, you are missing the term c, which may provide flexibility, which may provide a room to fit the all types of linear data. Linear data may have intercept, but you are curtailing the intercept term, then you may not fit the actual relationship. In similar way, neural network also have some flexibility by using Bayes nodes. Bayes nodes is similar in similar term. Bayes nodes provides a similar flexibility that it shifts and it provides the intercept type of thing.
Yes, sir. Thank you. How are, what are the
Anybody else?
drawbacks of artificial neural network?
Drawbacks of artificial neural networks. The drawbacks of artificial neural network is the data driven model. You all know that because it is not based on the what is the physics happening inside the model, or what are the processes behind this, which is governed by gravitational forces, or it is governed by some electromagnetism or anything else which can derive different phenomena. So it just uses the data input and output data. So this ANN model is valid for interpolation. It is very good, but for extrapolation, if you are if you want future predictions, then it fails. Generally fails. It is not very good in future prediction or extrapolation. For in between data, for interpolation, this model is very good, very good. That is the main drawback of artificial neural. For extrapolation, this model is not. For 1 day, 2 day rainfall runoff data, suppose rainfall runoff data, for 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day, you can use extrapolation data. You can extrapolate this model. But for 3-year, 4-year, 5-year, for the maximum ranges, you can go beyond the maximum values up to some limit. But on the other hand, if you have some mathematical model which is based on some laws, then it will be valid for all the data sets irrespective of their values, limits.